I'm glad to have you back. You're still watching Daybreak here on Arise News. Now time to look at what the papers are saying on their front pages. And we have this morning Chooks Akuna of the Authority newspaper, the ED, if I'm correct, yes, of the Authority newspaper. Glad to have you. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, let's dive into it immediately. This day paper, some interesting stories there. PDP summons Wike at last over alleged anti-party activities to face disciplinary panel. Says Atiku Obi Kwankwaso still in talks. Sani Bochi speaker condemned FCT minister. We have here for the first time in 28 years, Nigeria begins production of petrol at Dangote Refinery facility to begin sale immediately. NNPC to emerge sole buyer from new 650,000 barrels per day facility. OPEC's August output falls to lowest since January, despite Nigeria's small increase. And of course, at the top mass table, Xi Jinping to sign 5 MOUs today in faraway China, where Wike is with him. What do you make of this PDP's disciplinary committee on the FCT minister at last? Chooks.
Yeah, very interesting. As a reporter who covered the PDP, in the heydays of PDP, when PDP was government in power, I know how, I think I understand how the party works. And the party obviously aware of the problem Wike's continued stay in PDP is on the course. Went to fish for somebody the stature of Chief Tom Ikimi. For those who may not know, Tom Ikimi is 80 years old. He was NRC chairman in 1990. That's about 34 years ago. He's a thoroughbred politician. He was foreign affairs minister, and I think PDP knows that Ikemi has a stature of a man with a whip in his hand, to whip anybody in line. So it remains to be seen what will happen on Wednesday when the NWC meets. But it's not the optics are not looking good for PDP.
All right, so let's take a look at Daily Trust. 2 big stories on the front page of Daily Trust this morning. The big story there, Boko Haram kills many farmers and others in a fresh Yobe attack. The state government is planning mass burial. And what's particularly striking about this attack is sort of the alleged motive behind it. Some sources are suggesting that this could be a retaliatory strike against villagers for their cooperation with the military. Now, at the bottom there, you have the hashtag End Bad Governance protest. Lawyers, Amnesty International are kicking as courts remand protesters in prison. What do you make of these 2 very, very important stories on the front page of Daily Trust, Mr. Akuna?
Very interesting. To begin with, I'll say this for the opting time, that the protection of lives and property of citizens rests squarely on the shoulders of the Nigerian police force. And Nigerian police force appears to be shaking this responsibility and, as it were, chasing rats while Nigeria is on fire. The protests were not caused by these protesters. It's end bad governance, and everybody in a democracy has got the right to protest. And it's this right that these people exercised. And talking about Boko Haram, something happened a few days ago where military armored personnel carriers were said to have been captured by Boko Haram. Of course, it's not true. I think what the mistake the soldiers who made, the soldiers who abandoned these trucks was to have actually scuttled the equipment. It's not new. Even when the US went to hunt down Osama bin Laden in Pakistan, when there was a Black Hawk helicopter that developed a problem there, and they had to, destroy, what remained of it, because, in warfare, you have casualty, and sometimes you get equipment that falls into enemy hands. So the training is one of the tactics. It's if your equipment falls into hands of a hostile territory where you cannot retrieve that equipment, the best thing to do is to scuttle that equipment.
But I learned they demobilized it also.
No, they did. They also have touched it.
Okay.
They also have bonded themselves than giving Boko Haram terrorists the glory of. And apparently because, they tried to create some make some propaganda that's a terrorist by saying that they captured these, but it's not true, because had they actually captured these trucks, these vehicles, they would have used those vehicles. But apparently, I mean, we saw from videos that it was stuck in the mud, and any vehicle anywhere in the world could have been stuck in the mud.
It could have affected any vehicle.
And the
so the what?
No, carry on.
No, but it's interesting how Boko Haram has been attacking villages. You know, we thought that the military had this, you know, in wraps, but then we see that they went to Yobe, and the disturbing thing is that where they struck, it's about 50 minutes from Damaturu, the state capital, which cause for, I mean, it's yes, for concern. So, but you know, I think the military too. I was speaking with a retired military officer, and he said he doesn't understand why the military that has gone to war in Sierra Leone, has gone to Darfur, has gone to Liberia, you know, and did exploits, you know, is finding it difficult to contain these insurgents. So, but I think also that they have collaborators, you know, even in the ranks of the military. That's why, exactly, and I'm enjoying some support from the locals, if you allow me.
All right, let's look at The Guardian. See that home. It says insecurity, secessionist agitations, deep foreign direct investment, trade in Southeast states. The sit at home started in 2021, and Soludo spoke about it. And at a point, he said everybody should go to work. Mba of Enugu State has also spoken about this. But this is really taking a toll, not just in debts, not just in businesses. And you know, the people of the East, they thrive in SMEs, you know, personal businesses. But this thing really, banks are closed. Also in education, schools are closed. What's your sense of this? I mean, aside other stories we have, that fuel scarcity is carry now, coalition is demanding, and of course, demand for Dangote's PMS intensifies as petrol hits 1,000 litre. But let's look at that story, that particular.
Yeah, I think there's a cloud. I mean, silver lining. You know, there's a silver lining in this cloud. Nigeria. Last week, President Tinubu appointed Mr. Tosin Ajayi as a new DG of the DSS. I'm very confident. You know, Tosin Ajayi is somebody who has put in his best in the security of Nigeria. You know, he served in the Southeast. He was particularly responsible for nipping in the bud the agitation by Chief Raf Wazirike in the early 2000s. And I'm sure that Tosin Ajayi will bring his experience to bear, you know, to put this to an end. You see, before now, the DSS had not been fair, you know, in its handling of activities in Southeast. Like I said, Tosin Ajayi is a very experienced officer. He served in several states, and I'm sure he's coming with a new broom. He's going to bring his expertise to bear on the Southeast, so that, like you rightly pointed out, you know, the cost of this sit at home is very, very excruciating for Southeasterners. You know, you want to, the Onitsha market, which is the largest market in West Africa, has suffered a considerable toll. You know, this sit at home has dealt a huge toll on the Onitsha market. And not just Onitsha, you have the Newi market, you have the Aba, you know, markets. These are markets that are of international renown. So, and I'm very, very confident that with a new sheriff in town, the DSS boss is going to bring his expertise to bear on how to permanently solve this problem, so that the Southeast can breathe again.
Definitely. The Guardian is reporting that the Southeast has attracted just 6% of Nigeria's FDI over the past 4 years. And we have you mentioning all these sort of international markets in Anambra, in Aba, in all those different places, and just getting only 6% of FDI over the past 4 years is just totally unacceptable. Let's move on to the Vanguard and take a look at what's going on the front page of the Vanguard this morning. Anxiety as pump price of petrol races towards 1,405 naira per litre. Costing template shows landing price at 1,205 per litre. NNPCL already overwhelmed by subsidy. Marketers give condition for participating in importation. At the bottom, you have 2027 PDP in talks with Kwakwanso Obi, says spokesperson. The photos there, that of the End Bad Governance protests in Kuje and Suleja prisons. We just discussed that. But let's talk about the anxiety in Nigeria, Mr. Akuna. Pump price racing towards 1,405 naira per litre. Now, we take a look at this new minimum wage that we have. It just seems like we're back to square one, really. And there's also scarcity. It's not only that the price is increasing, we don't even have. People don't have to buy. We had I don't know if you watched the report, that you have people not going to work, just sitting at petrol stations, hoping to get something that they can use for their day-to-day activities, Mr. Akuna.
Yeah, exactly. And it's very interesting because not just, a lot of people, a lot of fathers, they spend the nights at petrol stations, long queues, and sometimes when it gets to their turn, the petrol station comes out to say that they've run out of stock. It's really very, very sad. Even coming here this morning, you see all the petrol stations around, for those who are lucky to have, long queues, and you wonder what the problem might be. But it's obvious that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu might have to swallow his vomit. He said that with subsidy, removal, that the products will be available, but as things are, nobody's God. Nobody can predict the future. We can only plan. But it will seem that President Tinubu's plan has not worked well. And I think it's high time the government came out to say, okay, that this is not working. Do we restore subsidy, or do we continue to pretend, and play the ostrich and see how it leads? But the optics are not good. People are going through a lot. It's difficult. Most of us buy black market, and it costs between 1,000 naira to between 1,000 and 1,200 naira per litre. And I saw this calls for carries removal. I'm not holding brief for Bele carry, but then I think it would be hypocritical to call for carries removal, because the de facto Minister of Petroleum is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And this trend started since Obasanjo, when the president appoints himself the Minister of Petroleum Resources and then appoints somebody as Minister of State. In all this, have we had Henneke Lopobri talk? No, he's not as much as whimpered, since the crisis began. So why skip the Minister of Petroleum Resources?
Well, why
skip the Minister of State and then jump on an appointee, as it were?
Okay, just some stories on Punch before we go to I'll get to that paper, but because it's still on the same story, just want to highlight them. NNPCL may stop petrol imports as depots price nears 1,000 litre. That's the Punch newspaper, if we can say it. Petrol will be exported if marketers boycott product. This is from Dangote Refinery. Hospitals, tertiary institutions, electricity subsidy may go 188 billion. And down there we see arrested Canada-based Nigerian woman threatening Yorubas risk 2-year jail. There's a story on, I think it's the New Telegraph. Yeah, correct. Yeah. Flooding may get worse in coming days, and Hyperdeck warns. Urges FG to declare state of emergency on it immediately. Attributes incidences to poor infrastructure, failure to follow environmental guidelines. From whose side? Ineffective dams management. The point is, over the years, Chooks, it's been a recurring problem. Yeah. We seem never to get a hang on this in this part of the world.
And I think the Hyperdeck left out a very important point. They didn't talk about global warming, which is very, very surprising. It's a global phenomenon. If you watch the news, in India, in Bangladesh, all around the world, it's been flooding everywhere because the ice caps are melting because of greenhouse gases. So, and because the Earth is, I think it's about 70% water and 30% land. And this water, about 50% of this water is stored as ice, in the Antarctic and the Antarctica. So when our planet, gets warmer, these ice caps melt. And when they melt, it means, more ocean, more water in the oceans. If you go to Amadou Bello Way on Victoria Island, you see all the roads there, the infrastructure there. You see that, you notice that they were built 30, 40 years ago when the shoreline was like 3 or 4 kilometers. But for the efforts of federal government that tried to, push back the shoreline, you see, I'm sure water will have swept off those parts of the city. So it's a problem we all have to solve, because greenhouse gas is cattle production, because it's been established that cattle is the biggest source of methane gas, and methane gas is the biggest problem for the ozone layer. So, and then also how the kind of fossil fuels we burn, that's why the whole world is talking about greening the earth. We have the Green Wall project, that runs from Djibouti to Senegal in Africa. And Nigeria is paying lip service to planting trees. These are some of the issues, some of the things that can be done to check global warming.
Yeah. All right, just a quick break now. We'll be back with more front pages, stories making the headlines in the international papers. Don't go away. Welcome back. You're watching Daybreak, and we're joined here to continue taking a look at the front pages. Now we're moving from across the continent and around the world. We still have in our studio here with us our analyst Chuks Akuna. He's the executive director of the Authority newspaper. Thanks again for being here with us. Let's take a look at the Citizen from South Africa. It says on the front page, no racism in home loans. Now, this is from the Minister of Human Settlements talking to the Banking Association of South Africa, who have now replied. They say race is certainly not one of the bank's home loans criteria. They say the Banking Association South Africa, in no uncertain terms, calling the minister saying she's playing the race card, and it's frankly irresponsible. What are your thoughts on these home loans? Very important, but you have the Minister of Settlement saying that there's some sort of racial discrimination going on in this loan approvals.
Yeah, you see, several decades after political independence, we still see that racism, remains in the front burner of South African politics. And I guess it was because in the days of apartheid, people have thought that, with the end of apartheid, and return to black majority rule, that it was going to be El Dorado for South Africans. But I think they've since learned that the grass is always greener from afar. And if you consider the statistics of crime rates in South Africa, you see that you have more crime in black-dominated areas. And for the minister to come and talk about tailored banks, which obviously are owned by mostly white and colored persons, that there should be no racism in loans approvals. It tells a lot about the realities of living in South Africa as a South African. It's been severally called the Rainbow Nation. But you see, I think it's an issue which nobody can run away from. There we talk about racism, here we talk about ethnicism. But the fact remains that human beings will always be human beings.
And will always manifest.
Exactly.
All right, let's look at the 4 papers have the story. The Times. You also have the Times, the the Financial
UK.
Times, and of course the Guardian. UK breaking with US to suspend 30 arms export licenses to Israel. Their talk, Lami was speaking just a while ago, is that Israel might just be breaching international law on human rights. What do you make of this? They're breaking, if you like, ties with US on this particular issue, trying to force the hand of Netanyahu, of Israel, the Prime Minister.
Yes, and I think there was President Biden. Joe Biden was interviewed yesterday, even though they said, because with the upcoming elections, Democrats in the U.S. are also being very, very careful about happenings in Gaza, about the war in Gaza. It's very difficult times, very interesting times for Israel and for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Israelis have been on strike. The country's been shut down because of the killing by Hamas of 6 Israeli hostages. And I think Hamas was very tactical. It sent a clear signal to Israel: you negotiate with us, or we kill or deal with the remaining 100 or so hostages that are with them in captivity. And we know how, Israel is one of the least populated countries in the world. You can't compare them to, all over the world, there are about 15 million Jews. So the life of every Israeli is very important. So, and we all know how Hamas operates. They don't care. You kill 10, 100 more will spring. So, and it's interesting because, six hostages were killed, and there's international outrage,
Even home.
Yeah, even home, But nobody's talking about the children, the women that are daily bombed in Gaza. No life should be less important than the other.
Harris made that point.
Yes, and I think that's what. So, apparently the British government is saying, no, it's enough is enough. Let's cut down on arms sales to
30 licenses suspended.
Exactly.
Yes, and I think it's coming at such a particular time, this decision that they've made from the previous Conservative government. And you also have the Labour government, this their review. They've been on a lot of scrutiny. There's been a lot of scrutiny on their stance when it comes to Israel and Gaza. And so I think it's important for them to make this decision at this time. However, experts are saying, it's significant, it's symbolic, but their arms or the help that they were rendering basically was just like 1% when it comes to military defense. So in that angle, it may not be that significant, but it's symbolic. However, we have just 1 minute, I think, and I just wanted to touch on a story that I think Indy would like. We didn't look at the Sports Punch Extra. 2025 AFCON qualifiers, early birds trust Ekong, Lukman, Boniface arrive Eagles camp in Rio, Indy.
Yeah, it's okay. You don't want to take it. Well, fine. Yeah, we're looking. Well, the problem with Labadia and Tags, and the man is firing back. Now we have a Guavon and 2 home coaches, that of Rangers International and one other team are on board now. So we'll watch and see what gives. These are the people who are in camp now. We'll see how things pan out. They have 2 matches after Benin Republic on Saturday 7th. Then 3 days later or so they will go and face Rwanda. We wish them the best. I think that will be it here on Daybreak. Yeah, thanks, Nkechi, for that sports.
All right. Thank you so much, Chuks Akuna, for joining us bright and early. As always, we appreciate your time. That's all the time we have for you here on Daybreak.